Now
Okay. I'm having a ball. Thanks for asking, whoever asked. You're very, very sweet. Thank you, your listener. Yeah, my first time here, and I'm a fan. I love it. So this is a Q&A. Show of hands of anyone that's been to a Q&A of mine before, because I've been to Florida a few times, or you've seen, oh, now keep your hands up. Now those of you who've seen me do a Q&A on YouTube or something like that. Okay, so most of you know my style. I ramble.
Yes.
It's what I do. So I might answer 3 questions in an hour. So that's how it goes. I do ask, though, for those of you, I do try to pick you guys at random if you have a question. So don't feel like butthurt if I don't pick on you and you've had your hand up the whole time. It's not because I don't love you, I just didn't want to answer your stupid question. But yeah, I do ask that if you have a question, if it's a question you know the answer to, or you've seen me answer it before, or you've seen it on YouTube, me answer that question. Because voice actors get asked the same questions over and over and over again. And I'm sure you're just as tired of hearing people, how do I become a voice actor? I don't know. I became a voice actor my own way, and I would recommend nobody to follow my example because I waited 10 years and actually said no to an audition. Look at me now. I encourage you to try it. So ask new questions and ask questions that I can riff on. Yes or no questions are fine, but they get kind of boring. Like, hey, what's your favorite color? Purple. Okay, good. And none of us are the wiser for it. I also, for some reason, and this is my own weird anxiety as a person, like favorites questions bug the hell out of me. Not because I'm like, ugh, but because I'm like, oh God, suddenly I have to pick a favorite. So I frequently get asked, who's my favorite character? And I'm like, it's a good question. It's perfectly solid. You all have your own favorites, I'm sure. But at my age, with all the characters I've played, I have over 230 characters to my credit. Wow, just a lot of people to have in your head, and they're all up here. Even Soldier A is like, the one who says freeze and gets shot and died. His name is Ralph, and he has a family.
His name is Ralph.
Picking a favorite is like incredibly difficult because if I want to be like, oh, my favorite character is Sebastian because he's pretty awesome and it's an easy favorite. But if I say that, I then have 229 characters in my head in my hotel room later that night going, you're a bastard. So favorite questions like that are like, I hate them. For that, it filled me with anxiety. I suddenly feel compelled to rank my experience, and I'm not qualified to do that yet because I have a lot of living left to do. So, I don't know what the best movie I've ever seen is. Hopefully I haven't seen it yet. Did that answer that? So, how do you become a voice actor? Take workshops. Come to Dallas. I teach them now. Answer that. My favorite character, I don't have one. They're all my children. My favorite color is today purple. Sometimes hunter green, sometimes black or gray. My favorite animal is a French bulldog. And my favorite person is my partner Brandon, who we've been together for 5 years now. And ninjas or pirates? Pirates. Ninjas seem cool, but that's a high-stress job. Pirates have a little more freedom. And waffles or pancakes? Both. I cannot imagine a world where I have to choose. And yes. All right. So who's? So having said that, who's got a question for me? We'll pick you first, darling.
Hi.
Hi. That was a statement. You
So I know that because Funimation does all that simul-dubbing. Does that get hard for you lately? Because you've been simul-dubbing so many lately. Does that make it hard for you? Like, do you lose yourself with the characters sometimes?
I have no time for anything else. Show of hands real quick, because if you don't know what a simul-dub is, I'm about to educate you. Who knows what a simul-dub is?
I know what it is.
What? Good. Where the hell have the rest of you been?
I know.
A simul-dub, I'm going to give you a quick breakdown. Okay, rambling. Strap in, kids. So, in the old days of dubbing, like anything prior to about 4 years ago, dubs tended to come out about a year or sometimes more after the original Japanese had aired in its entirety over on the island. So, and then we would get them after much negotiation, and we'd spend months adapting the scripts. Those of us that were writers would adapt the scripts in bulk. Over a period of many weeks, many months, and then we'd start recording them over a period of weeks and months, and really there'd be a staggered release, usually about 4 to 6 episodes a hit. And that's how it was for years and years and years. And then somebody at Funimation had the genius idea of being like, why are we waiting so long? Because it gives, online pirates, more time to disseminate stuff illegally. If we can get it out as quickly as possible out of the Japanese, there's less downtime. It generates more hype theoretically, and so they like, let's try this. And so along came Space Dandy, which was the first simuldub. And a damn good one, yes. The writers had to really rise to that challenge, because in the old days, and I've been a writer for almost 15 years, about as long as I've been an actor, a voice actor, and in the old days, a typical script deadline for a 25-minute episode to adapt that from materials received to finished booth product, we had usually about a week, sometimes 2 weeks, depending on the needs of the particular show. With simuldubs, we have 48 hours, and now they have 16. So I don't write anymore because as much as I love writing, I also love living and pursuing voice acting and seeing my family and you people. So I think that's a ridiculous time frame within which to expect anyone to produce good work, even if you're really awesome. So I don't agree with it, and I said, thank you, no thank you, Funimation, we'll go our separate ways. I still act for them, but I do not write anymore because that's some bullshit. So, I also cussed, that was another rule. It's PG-13, I can say fuck like twice. But you're also getting the real me, because this is just how I talk.
We love the real you.
I do too. So that's how simuldubs used to go, or that's how dubs used to go, and now with simuldubs being the norm. And for the first couple of years, they would do like a few properties would be simuldubs, and everything else would be DVD release, which was the old way of writing and producing and all that other wonderful stuff. Now, as actors, when you are cast in a show, they don't know what your line count is going to be week to week, because when they are working on episode 1 of the dub, for the simuldub, episode 2 is often as not still being animated in Japan. So we don't know. Like, if I may play a main character who in episode 1 has 170 lines, which is X amount of hours, recording hours. And next week I may have 2 lines. We don't know. But I have to sign a contract, and with my agent and everyone else going, I will be available for the simuldub entirety. Like, I can't go on vacation for more than a week. I feel you. Oh, that's the door. Baby crying. Baby door. Oh, it's gonna turn into a ghost story panel. Right. So as actors, we have less freedom because we're kind of on call now, because we don't know what our week is going to look like. So sometimes it's like, cool, I got the main part, awesome. Wait, I don't have. Oh, I die next week. Well, no. So it's weird, and so many of us are in a lot of shows because obviously with the quick turnaround time, Funimation wants to use the more tried and true actors that they know are quick and dependable and efficient, like those of us that have been doing this forever. So we get cast in everything because it makes the directors' lives easier. And it's really stressful, and I have mixed emotions about it. As an actor, I love it because I can go in and come out, and I like that it comes to, the dub gets to you guys so quickly, so that you're like, oh, this show is really cool, and we're kind of discovering it together as fans and actors, and that's really cool. I think the deadline is a little inhuman, and I think at some point something's going to break, and I don't know what it is, and I hope it's not the show, or your hearts. Yes, simuldubs. Yes, and you can. There's a subscription service to Funimation, and that's where you go to watch the Funimation dubs illegally. That's what simuldubs are, for those of you who don't know. Thank you for bringing that up, and I just went for 10 minutes. You, sir, there. Yeah.
Okay, quick scenario. You come across Retro's time machine, the working version, and you can try to bring it down to any point in time you want to.
Okay, first of all, you're asking me a time travel question, like where would I go in a time machine? Having played Okabe, the answer is fucking nowhere. I don't want to mess with that shit. I would go back in time and tell Okabe to never touch it. Like, never mess with it, it's going to ruin everything and drive you crazy. I used to think time travel was cool, and now I think it's the worst idea ever. Now, the TARDIS landed, that's a different story. I'd have to go with the Doctor. Where would you go? Question, like, where would you know? Where would you go? Any point in time, where would you go?
I don't know. The future.
Just the future. The future seems like it's going to be very worthy of that noise.
Right.
You, in the front, with glasses.
going with the Steins Gate thing, how difficult was it to actually do Okabe's emotional range throughout the first series?
Hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
How excited are you to do the episode, Steins Gate 0?
The simuldub of Steins Gate 0 is already up to episode 12.
Yes.
So we're about halfway through the series, and it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. For those of you that know Steins Gate, you know that about halfway through the first series, it goes from lighthearted comedy, intelligent comedy, to dark and really, really raw. And there's in fact a scene, I've talked about this before, so those of you that have heard me, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but there's a very particular scene in the first season, around episode 14, where he's in the backseat of the car. You know that scene, and it's a devastating moment. It's such a simple little moment, and when because I was working on the show with an adaptive writer with the marvelous Patrick Seitz, and I got to write that scene, and when I did, I cried my eyes out just watching and hearing the original Seiyu, who kills it. And it's a brilliant scene, and for those of you that don't know the show, it's the moment where you get to see this character as he really is. There's no bullshit about him anymore. He is devastated, he is crying, and it's real. Even talking about it, I get goosebumps, because it was a really turning point for me as an actor in the booth. Because when I wrote the scene, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so hard to do when it comes time to record it, because this is gonna be crazy. I've never had a character this real before, this close to just who I am as a person. And I went in the booth and I had to record that scene, and I lost it. I lost my mind. I had a complete breakdown and cried, said the lines through the breakdown, it's not professional, and then had to walk out the booth, I had to go splash water on my face and walk around sobbing like an idiot, over through Funimation. And then I came back in the booth and the director was like, good news, that worked. So if you don't want to do it again, we can just keep what we got. I'm like, keep it, I'm not ever doing it. And so I still can't watch that scene. So that's about halfway through the original, and now that emotional level is where we start in the new stuff. There's no Holy Kyoma anymore. He's a broken man at the beginning of Steins Gate 0. Holy Kyoma is a thing of the past. He is now just Okabe, and he's utterly PTSD, and he wears all black, as though in mourning for his own self. And he's in hell. He's in the worst kind of hell, where he is utterly isolated, alone, and no one quite understands, where he's coming from. It is like where he was at the lowest point of the original series times 10. Hi! That was just the greatest reaction. She came in, she's like, the schedule was right, it's him. She thinks I'm Todd Habercorn. You look amazing, by the way. I love your cosplay. So getting to reprise Steins Gate. Oh, no, sorry. I just put you on the spot. She's like, I'm dying. I'm dying.
Give her a hug.
Air hug. Oh, you give good air hugs. So it's devastating, but it's also the most rewarding as an actor, because it's some of the most gritty, real acting I've ever done in my career. So thank you for that. Yes. This side, you with the glasses there. Oh, the one in front of you. We'll do you next.
To bring to another interesting character, how did you feel about playing Sukiyama from Tokyo? Oh, yeah!
It's pronounced Skiyama, thank you very much. But that's fine, we just call him the gourmand. I love playing those characters because their job is to scare the shit out of you. And you're gonna be like, oh my God, that's so, wow. I got to record the hanky scene. The first hanky scene. I know, I really gotta qualify that more, because for people that don't know, it sounds like I'm describing a porn. It's not quite that. But there's the scene when he's and he's losing his, cookies, because he's like, oh, the smell of your blood, it's so creepy. That was, the engineer that was working on that show with us, that was his first day on the job. He wasn't an anime guy, he was a sound guy, and he was brilliant at his job, and he was really great. His name was Dom, and I love him. And he came in, he's like, yeah, no, I don't really know anime that much, but this looks really cool, it's a cool show, Listen, I had to do that scene, and I was directing myself that night, because I was helping Mike McFarlane direct some stuff just to take the load off his plate. because it was a simul-dub. And I had to do the scene, the hanky scene. I was like, oh my god, I love doing this kind of stuff. It's so crazy and out there. And Dominic saw the Japanese preview and he's like, what the hell is going on? And again, there's a big wall of glass between he and I, so he can see everything I do. And I'm a very physical guy. You may have noticed I gesture a lot and I take out microphones. Tie my hands behind my back. I can't have a conversation. And so I get really physical in the booth and I do weird movements and stuff just for the voice to do things. And so I end up looking really abstract and crazy. If you saw me doing this in public, you'd call an authority. And so I was doing this and I was like, Dominic, yeah? Don't watch me. So I like have my shirt up in my face. I'm like half naked and I'm twisting. And I do the whole scene and Dominic is kicking ass because he has to chase my levels because I'm all over the map. So he's got his hands on the dial like chasing me because 1 minute I'm here, the next time I'm here. And then I freeze in position after each take because I want to keep that energy in case we have to come right back in to get a pickup. And so I'm stay like this for a second and I'm used to quickly hearing, okay, no, that was good, let's check it out. But sometimes it takes a minute and I just hear crickets. And I'm like this. And there's nothing. And I just kind of... and I look over at Dominic, who's like... I told you not to look! He was like, no, I'm sorry! I don't know what to do! So we got through it, and it was really funny, and like he was like, he talked about that scene, like seeing me do that for weeks. He's like, that Michael guy is weird. Oh yeah, you're figuring that out, are you? And then and he kind of got his groove, and then 4 weeks later, there was another hanky scene. He's like, we gotta do this again! This time, I want you to watch me. So we picked on this unit.
So, have you ever done like pranks in the booth, like with other voice actors that you work with?
I mostly just fart right before whoever's I hotbox it, it's called. And then, we leave bombs. There's not a lot of time anymore to like really prank people. But we do leave bombs whenever there's a chance. Bombs, not literal bombs. Whoever's coming in after me. That's what farting is. Just fumigate the whole booth. Someone comes in, Jesus! Tatum was in here. I'm an awful person. Bombs are really like, so if I'm recording a scene, and let's say I'm in a scene with Jamie Markey, and I know she's not recorded yet, and I know that whatever I say, she's going to hear in her pre-roll when she has to lay down her lines. So I might, of course I have to get the actual line as written, but I might also get lines that are like, completely inappropriate just to see if I can throw off her game. Now, Jamie is a consummate professional, so it never happens that I throw off her game. But Jamie also, as a writer, is really good at giving you ideas for bombs for other actors. She was the writer for Italian. Touching, right? Some of the funniest shit I've ever seen and read and got to do, because she's fabulous at comedy, she's fabulous at everything.
Stop it, keep going.
Right? She's amazing. Well, so do you remember the scene? And you remember the scene where France is, I know you guys know this, but you remember the scene where France is telling little brother Italy about the birds and the bees, and he's like, wait, we love each other, and it's just like 20 seconds of beep. His mouth is going and it's all this stuff. Jamie just said she wrote like beep, whatever, but in order to put the beep there has to be something for it to cover up, and there's no beep it's all post, so I have to put something there for them to cover up with the beep so that you get the full effect. So Jamie just put in the margin notes for the actors and director, she's like, Michael, just make Todd really uncomfortable. And I did. I can't begin to tell you what I said. I'll just say that it started with so I guess I can begin to tell you. It's like, hey, when two people love each other and that stuff, directed specifically at Todd, which was totally awful. But I've known Todd for years, and I'm like, I have to do it, because he would do it to me too if he'd gotten the chance, and has. Many times, like we worked on Holic together, and he would leave me bombs about like the shape of the pipe fox all the time. He'd be like, "Man, it looks like a penis on your shoulder." But Todd, get out of my head. So I left him this like 20-second long tape that was not going to be beeped out until post, so Todd was going to hear whatever I said when he came in to record. And I know it worked, because he was there a few days later, and I was walking down the hall, and I ran into him coming out of the booth, and he was like, "Hey, Tatum, how's it going?" Oh yeah, you got the bomb! So yes, things like that all the time. Yes, you.
Yeah, so what's the weirdest fan experience?
The weirdest fan experience? I don't want to give you any ideas. I have a really high threshold for weird. So do I tell you the story about the old woman who farted on me? No. I was weird. I was at a comic book shop doing a signing there, which was really cool. I hadn't done that before, and I'm a comic book nerd. So I was like, oh, cool. And they were going to give me like comic books as payment. I'm like, yes, please. And I used to smoke then. I don't anymore because that wasn't doing myself any favors. But at the time, this was years ago, I smoked. So I stepped outside in the alley, mind you, for a cigarette. And I was like, just smoking. I was there with another voice actor who was also having a cigarette break, I won't mention their name because they may not want to be associated with this way. And we're just talking about, oh, it's really cool. The people are really cool. And out of the shadows, literally out of the shadows, in this alley comes this like 100-year-old woman. I mean, she was like dressed like, I mean, far be it from me to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't wear. But if my grandmother was dressed in that corset, she's gonna go to church by herself that day. So she just comes up to us and very elegant. She has this incredible smoker's voice. And she's like smoking a Virginia Slim, which is like 3 feet tall. And she had this weird thing where she would just take this impossible drag and never exhale. Like, where is it going? And she'd be like, "Hi guys. Big fan of your work." And we were both like, "How are you now? Well, that's nice." And she wanted us to sign her corset, which was a lovely corset, steampunk thing. And so she pulls a couple of Sharpies out of her décolletage. Which was like, I'm sure to really get down in there, bruise them up. And now we're rabbit. And they were both black Sharpies, and her black corset she wanted to sign, and we were like, oh, well, she's like, oh, I know. There's a lot of people's signatures on here, and I'm the only one that knows, because they're all invisible. And I look at my friend, and I'm like, we're gonna die. This is how we die. So how do we say no? So we kind of crouch down and we sign, and as we sign, she takes a drag off the cigarette, and we both hear this, huh? Now, let me give you some advice for those of you who find yourself needing to pass gas in public. You're gonna do it. We all do. If you make a noise, there's no hiding it. If you're in an elevator and there's only one other person, they know they didn't do it. The decent thing is to just go, sorry. Because at least they go, all right, well, at least they know they farted. It's a lot weirder when you're with someone like, do they know they just farted? They're acting like they don't know. That's somehow weirder. So, just own it. It's like if you don't want someone to laugh at you for falling down in public, stay down. They'll go from, ha, oh. And don't get it right back up, because then they'll laugh at you. Since you both have a fart in public, just own it. I mean, don't go out intending to fart in public, please. At home, don't be like, I'm gonna do what Tatum said. He said to fart in public. No, I said own it if you do. This woman didn't own it. She just sat there like nothing happened, and it made it so awkward for the rest of the signing process. She was like, huh? And then we're like, we handed it back. She was like, thank you so much. She came back in and she just walked off into the night, and as far as I know, collected our souls. I also had someone chase me in a hotel once, and I thought it was really, it was my fault, because like I was waiting for an elevator at Con several years ago, and I heard someone go, ah, and I was like, I know that gasp, and I saw this flash of color, and it looked like a black butler color, like I'm very sensitive to that color scheme in my peripheral vision now, like that looks like a CL blue, that's a Madame Red, that's a Grell Red, run! So I go, hee, and I just run to the store. Just to see if they'll chase me. And she did. And it was like Scooby-Doo. so mummy, and like, we don't make it. And finally, after like 5 floors, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I was just messing with you. And she came up, and the only thing she wanted to know is if I knew Vic Mignogna. I deserve that for what I did. I accept that. You, darling, who I embarrassed earlier, what's your question? My relationship to CWA? Everyone's like, oh, shots fired. I met him for the first time about a year and a half ago at Yorkshire Comic-Con, or CosplayCon rather, Yorkshire CosplayCon, which was really fun. I've known of him for a while, because he does a really good me, and I'm like, bitch, you better stay in England. But when I met him, and he was a super cool guy, and he wanted to do that interview, which I'm assuming you know the one I'm talking about, where he's like really awkward. And he was like, can we just do this little sketch I wrote out? And I thought, this is really funny. Can we just like, we ad-lib through it where you're super awkward, and I'm like just trying my best to like, not show that I hate every moment of it, and it was really, I still think it's one of the funniest things I've ever gotten to do, because it was, his timing is so solid, and when we do the prank calls and stuff, it's great. I love Connor. I consider Connor a dear friend, and he has a really nice ass. Who has another question? Yes, you, darling, with the sunglasses.
What was your, like, before your voice acting, what was, like, the worst job experience you've ever had?
I think I worked retail for a lot of years, just as for a lot of actors do. I mean, it's, retail waiting. That's a typical job for actors, because it's hard to make a living full time. As an actress, you support yourself with jobs that have a more flexible schedule, and traditionally, retail and waiting do have a more flexible schedule. So we go to that. For 3 years, I worked in a bookstore, and working in a bookstore around Christmas time is hell on earth. And I used to work the info desk, which is I was the guy you'd come to see if you were looking for a book and you didn't quite know what section it would be in. And I'm amazed at how people who are presumably literate would come in and be like, this is a real exchange that I had with a real person in this job. And she came in, she's like, I am looking for a book. I wondered if you might help me. Sure, absolutely. It's on my tag and everything. She's like, well, here's the thing. I don't know the title. Okay? I don't know the author. And I'm ashamed to admit I don't even remember what the book was about. But I know that it's coffee table sized, it's blue, with gold lettering, and you had it here on display at this table Christmas about 4 years ago. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, what a wonderful gift that would be for my college-age daughter. Do you have a way you can look that up? And I'm like, no. But I can take you to every blue book with yellow lettering that I know of because of my shelving experience. And then I just like taking Kelly's blue book and be like, is this it? No. How do you know? That kind of stuff is really, people get really nasty at Christmas time too. Like, you said you'd have to do Harry Potter. I hate you. And like, they throw a flip a tail. Like, people lose their minds. It was also in a really rich neighborhood, and those people are the worst. People that would come in like the last 2 minutes before we closed at like midnight, because we open really late around the holidays, so people could shop. This guy would come in at like midnight and be like, I'm just gonna shop around. And he bitched at me one night because it's 12:30, and I'm like, can we go home, please? But I said it in my nice way. I'm like, oh, sir, we're trying to close up the cash wrap. If you could just come up. And he was like, oh, I've never been kicked out of a store in my life. I'm like, well, congratulations. First, let me know how this feels. And I had that job, and that was kind of worse because I don't deal with entitled people very well. I learned that about myself. People come like, you boy, help me do this thing now. I'm like, shh. Screw you, lady. You, darling, you've got the green skirt.
Okay, so sorry, just 1 moment. So if you were to get your hands on the IBM 5100, and the thing is, you can't get rid of it. Like you can either have to like check somebody else, or you're just kind of stuck with it. What would you do with it?
Hide it. So you say I couldn't get rid of it. I could get rid of it. I would tie it up in a bag, lay it down with rocks, and throw it in a river. And IBM that's the computer that allows time travel. Is a big component of why time travel is possible in Steins Gate. And as we all know, who's seen Steins Gate, time travel is a bad idea.
Yes.
But I don't know, I think I would just have to it would be like that thing I just kept in a cedar chest somewhere and never spoke of. And I would have to write one of those old Victorian letters to someone here to my grandchild, you inherit the family curse, after my death. It would be that thing, just passed on, never use it. This side row again, let's see. You with the purple hair, I told, yeah, you're Ida, right? Are you Ida?
Yes, I'm Toka.
Oh, Toka, sorry, my bad. I saw the glasses, threw me off, but you look great. What's your question?
So my question is,
Take your time, it's fine.
I'm so nervous, sorry. But, okay, so what was your biggest break? What made you get your biggest break in the voice acting industry?
My biggest break was undoubtedly Kyoya in Oran.
Yeah.
I'd only been voice acting full time for a couple of years by then, and that was the first show I ever did that was as big as it was. And I had been told, oh yeah, you're going to be in the show, it's going to be really big. And I'm like, okay, cool. I had no concept of how big. And then when they flew us out to a convention, Anime Expo, I believe it was, in 2008 or 9, to do the cast announcements. And it was a room of 10,000 people. And I was like, what? And they came up, and no one knew who I was. So they were really pissed that some nobody was playing Kyoya. And I was like, sorry. But they, once they saw it, once everything came out, people liked it. And I had this great experience where a few months later, after realizing, wow, this show's really popular and they hate me because I'm nobody. Oh God, which happens. That happens in this career line sometimes. I'm like, cool, I guess I've arrived. But we did a premiere in Dallas, which is where I live. Funimation operates. We did the premiere of the first 2 or 3 episodes, and a few of the cast went, and we had the costumes on. Everything was really cool, and we took questions between showings. And there's one guy that was dressed in this really awesome samurai outfit. I'll never forget. Stood up and asked her a question. I was like, I just picked him and said, I like your outfit. What's your question? He was like, well, this is not so much a question as it is a comment for Mr. Tatum. And he said it in that tone. I'm like, oh shit. Here we go. And he just said something really delightful. He was like, I'll admit, when I heard that you were cast in the show, I thought, who is this guy? He's going to be completely wrong. This is my favorite character, and I cannot believe they picked this guy to do it. And I'm like, why did I pick this character? And I can feel the audience going, oh. And then he goes, but having seen it, and he turned and he bowed to me, and I was like, and then I saw him years later. I actually told that story in a panel when he was sitting. He was like, oh my God, that was me! And I was like, hi, me! But definitely Oran. Oran was my big break. Because that show is now over 10 years old, and it's still extremely popular. And in this business, that never happens. A show that had 1 season 10 years ago, it has never come out with more material, except in the manga, of course. But there probably never will be a season 2. I mean, I say that just because I've given up hope years ago. I could be wrong, but so far, I'm not. And that's a show that people still come to me and be like, oh my God, all I do is this, the show is great. And they come to Greg, they come to Vic, they come to everybody who's in that show and say thank you. You're still watching it. You're still watching it. Yeah. New people are finding it 10 years later. That almost never happens.
I actually met you, Todd Capricorn, Viviana, and Travis Willingham.
That's almost the entire cast.
Almost the entire cast,
yeah.
And I would really just saying, I just want to get at your autograph section.
Yeah.
I want to get a picture of you.
Come down.
Yeah,
awesome. Please do. I'd be delighted. You in the black. You've got the black sleeve.
My favorite. I'd like to say that.
We should hang out more.
What is your favorite part from writing versus directing versus acting?
What's my favorite between those three? Or what's my favorite about each individual one? My favorite part of acting is getting to explore myself. This is going to sound really highfalutin and frou-frou, but as I get older, I have a much more kind of spiritual and Zen-like relationship to acting, and I consider it quite a privilege to be able to tell someone's story in whatever way I'm called to do it. I was drawn to acting as a young person because I didn't like myself very much. I mean, who does at that age? I know I couldn't stand myself. I wanted to be anybody but Michael, and so I was drawn to acting because I could pretend to be someone else. And it was liberating. I had the freedom to I could just not be me for a couple hours on stage each night, or doing this show or doing that. And the more I've kind of delved into acting and really studied, because I continue to study it all the time. I take workshops. I mean, it's a continued effort. Most of the work comes before the actual performance. Like 90% of the work comes before the actual doing of what you think of as the work, the audience. And the longer I do it, the more I've realized, like, there is no such thing as a character. When I'm voicing someone that you love, I love them too, of course, but when I'm voicing someone or playing someone on stage, it's just me. It's just some facet of my personality that just doesn't come out elsewhere. But here in this show, in this scene, with this person, it has a context that brings it out. And it's just me, even if it's a different voice or a different accent, it's all just me under different lenses. And it's really liberating because rather than being an escape from who I am, I'm learning who I am the more I act. Somewhere inside of me is Sebastian, the demon, you know, that's super suave and has all the answers, but really just wants your soul to be warm. Somewhere inside of me is an itinerant peddler from medieval Germany, you know, who you know, falls in love with a wolf god. It's, you know, somewhere inside of me are all these people, and I relate to them on such a deep level. Somewhere inside of me is a guy that thinks he's a mad scientist and who has a breakdown when it's him or his best friend. And that's all me. I have a weird memory of being these characters where it's like it actually happened to me, where I have, like, I don't always remember lines that people are like, do that line. I'm like, I don't remember the line, but I remember the experience just like you might remember a really intense experience. And that's my favorite part about acting. My favorite part about directing is getting to work and be on that journey with an actor who's kind of, you know, crafting the performance as they go and being part of that in some way. My favorite part of being a writer, when I still did it, was getting to write dialogue that actors could really breathe through and really find themselves in, and then getting, you know, people whose acting chops I respect, to have them come up to me and be like, man, thank you for that script. It was so much fun. I really got to sink my teeth into those words, and you know, you helped me find the character. That's the best feeling in the world. So that's my favorite thing. You in the very back there. You have a Kermit or a frog? Is that like Muppet Babies Kermit?
Yeah.
Oh. Love it.
I have a question. Out of all your characters that you played, which is your favorite quote? Like when people ask you which one?
My favorite quote is when people ask me. I like doing unusual quotes that people don't expect from characters that they think they know, or they think they know what my answer is going to be. So when people are like, "What's your favorite Sebastian?" I'm like, "Oh, my favorite Sebastian is we'll have to roll. I'm simply one hell of a deer." Which he says, it's canon at some point, and that's my favorite Sebastian line. My favorite, but that's one. But my favorite one, because the reaction always gets is someone asks me like, "What's your favorite kill you line?" I'm like, "Oh, very simple. What is it now, Daddy?" That line took 15 takes. What is it now, Daddy? 6 syllables. It was written to flaps. It fit perfectly because Monica Rial was the writer. She knows what she's doing. And Caitlin she had the director, Caitlin. That show, like, oh my God, you cannot. Kids, if you want Caitlin Glass to appear next to you at midnight, look in the mirror and say "Oron" 3 times. I mean, that show, she was... Caitlin is such a wonderful director because she loves everything she works on like it is her child, and she's loved nothing more than Oron in her life. I mean, she's got nothing but love to give for her shows, but Oron is her baby. She was laughing every time I did that line. She's like, well, Tatum, that was really good, but it's too sexy, and it's not a sexy line. It's just him saying, "What is it now, Daddy?" It's his nickname. I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha, okay, coming in for it again. "What is it now, Daddy?" No, you did it again. It's sexy. I'm like, I'm sorry, Caitlin, I have no frame of reference for how else to say this. But whenever I say it, it's sexy. "What is it now, Daddy?" And finally, so like the last take was me being like, "What is it now, Daddy?" That's it, that's the take. Thank God. That line.
That's funny.
No, let's go back over here.
Yeah, I know fellow voice actor Brina Poncia likes to prank you a lot. I was just wondering if you've ever done an epic prank on her.
No. There's no. You can't prank Brina because she. Shut up, Jamie! because I didn't plan well. So Brina, at some point, like, she started this whole prank war that was really just a prank, like, war that was one prank that she won immediately. Because I tried to get her back and it always failed. And she actually preemptively got me back because she thought, oh, you're going to get me again, so I'm going to go ahead and prank you a second time, because I'm assuming between now and then you'll have done something. Oh, you didn't? I'm going to prank you again anyway. The first prank she did was to break into my house and rearrange my furniture. Where I came home after a long night out, and I'm like, why is my front door? Why is that? The bolt isn't locked. Okay, and walk in. What? I do that stupid thing where I like walk out to make sure this is my house. That's my house. Where? The couch is over here now, TV's over here, all this stuff. There's a $5 bill with a note on it that says, "We have fun, thanks." On the couch, I'm like, this has got to be Brina. I called Brina, and Brina is such an amazing actress that she was like, no, what are you talking about? That's not me, and I totally bought it. She will tell you, she called me right back. Let me know, ha 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 ha. By that she means she fell asleep and called me back 9 hours later. When she woke up, I was like, oh, I never told Tatum that was me. He's probably scared to death. So I went to list them all of the likely suspects, and they all had alibis. And I'm like, this is a crazy person. The crazy person has broken into my house. Oh my God, they found me. They found me. A fan has found me. I have to tell you that just a few months prior to that, on Halloween, we got a lot of trick-or-treaters, and I'm here revoked. And I answered the door without thinking about it, because I'm like, trick-or-treaters, yay! Big bowl of candy, and I'm just like, toss candy out, or throw it out in the yard. Go! But I open the door, and there is a Theo and a Sebastian cosplay. Imagine what's going through my head. At first, I'm like, oh, cool. I immediately go into my Texas dad voice to be like, well, y'all sure do look cute. What are y'all supposed to be? And they look at me, and I'm realizing they have no clue, none whatsoever. I'm like, thank God. And they go, I'm a character named Micheal. This is my butler, Sebastian Micheal. And I'm all, well, I don't know what that is, but y'all sure do look adorable. Why don't y'all just take the rest of the bowl and I'm like, close the door, I'm like, they found me. I have to move. And that was just a couple months prior, and then I come home to like rearrange furniture. She had left ice cream in the freezer with my name on it. The worst part was trying to explain that to the cops. The cops were like, wait, so they didn't take anything and they actually left you ice cream? That sounds like pretty nice, breaking and entering. You want to file a report? I'm like, yes! And they're like, I don't know, it's gotta be, it's not a prank. Okay. I'm kind of a big deal in the anime world. And, like, what's anime? Like, it was the most embarrassing thing. Like, sure, you're a big deal. Meanwhile, I think there's like an axe-wielding clown under my bed. And then Britta calls me up, and she didn't just admit it right away. She was like, when they like rearranged your furniture, did they like leave ice cream in your fridge with your name on it? I'm like, yes. Oh my God. They did the same thing to me. I'm like, oh my God, we've all been talking about that. The whole cast of Black Butler has been marketed. Someone has all their names on their records, like on their mirror, they're just going down the line. Oh God, oh God, oh God. And she's like, I'm freaking out. She's like, Brina, I'm coming to you right now. We're gonna call it. Like, we got it. She's like, dumbass, it was me. I'm like, so I've never gotten her back. So she just wins at life. You with the orange meat, the red.
So I was asked to ask you this, and I think they've asked you this before, but
this is gonna go well.
How did you deal with how did you deal with the PTSD of playing Agave?
Okabe?
I didn't.
Oh, sorry, no worries. How did I deal with the PTSD? I took a break from acting for a season. I couldn't go in the booth for a little while. So you'll notice after Steins there was about a year where I didn't do much. Because I was like, I gotta take a break. Because that was, also a turning point for me as an actor. Like that was, that moment in the booth that I spoke of earlier there's a line you can't cross when you're an actor. Like it's important to really be vested in your characters. You know, even if it's for a show that you may not be the target audience for, it's your job to be in that person and to speak through them and to tell their story for the audience it is for, and I believe that. But you have to have a line. You can't bring it home because it's psychotic. And you have to, like, you can't continue to go through what these characters are going through and bring it home. You have to learn how to be like, okay, we're going to leave Okabe here. And I hadn't learned to do that yet because I hadn't encountered a character that intense. So it didn't seem as, it wasn't as necessary a thing in any other performance. Like Sebastian's very low key and very fun, so bringing him home is fine. He comes in very handy at restaurants, for example. So I'm happy to bring Sebastian with me and kill him and others. But Okabe, you know, is a broken thing. He is in hell, and it's hard to bring that. It's hard to get rid of it unless you have experience. It's like exorcising a demon from your home. It's like out demon. Like if you don't do that, you're gonna have a bad time. And so my method was, when I wrote the scripts along with Patrick Sykes, nerdy nerd, I bought a lab coat and I wore a lab coat while writing it. I didn't wear it in the booth because that's super unprofessional and weird. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm here. Like, it's just weird and it just gives the wrong impression to your director.
So let's plan for one day.
You do it. But I had the lab coat at home, which became like his totem. And after you know, when we were done recording and I wrapped and everything was out, I gave it a Viking funeral. I took it outside in my nice big backyard that I had at the time, and I burned it in a little apple tub. And that was not out of like, screw you, and it was more of a, you know, like it's just, I need to be done, like let it go, and I did. And then 7 years later, Steins Gate 0 comes out. And I'm like, well, at least he's not wearing a lab coat anymore. So that's awesome.
What's your next signing?
My next signing today is at 3, is it 3? It's at 3 o'clock. 3, and we'll be here for a little while. Yes, you have it. It's 3rd, yes, you.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm good.
No, that was your question.
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked that then. Voicing Sebastian, did you ever think that he would be such a big character that even numerous about fans?
No idea.
Like, they just love him so much?
I'll tell a kind of a little emotional story about Sebastian that I haven't shared before.
Does it involve a nun? I hope not. I hope it doesn't involve a nun.
I said an emotional story, not a dirty one. There's plenty of those. Some people know this about me because I talk about it often, but when I was a little kid, the reason I became an actor is because acting literally helped me find my voice. I had a very severe speech impediment and a learning disability as a child, which held me back considerably. So from the ages of, until about 9 or 10, I never spoke. I didn't speak at all. I know what you're saying. I've made up for lost time ever since. I had a speech therapist for 5 years who was this wonderful little British lady who speaks and received pronunciation with a very suave Sebastian voice. It's where that comes from. That is an ode to the person that taught me how to speak. So even though I grew up in Texas and everyone else in my family has a sort of Texas drawl, which is real fun to do, it's not my natural voice because I learned to speak from a British lady who was like, the rain in Spain calls rain in the plains, that sort of, those sort of exercises that were lovely. She was crazy too. She was just a beautiful person. She had ties to theater. She was an actress herself, and she still did dialect coaching for certain people, so she had ties to this children's theater, and she was like, we realized that the more she worked with me, I could speak clearly and without my impediment if I was reading from a script or something that I had memorized. So she would go, you need to look at acting. And so there was a production of Velveteen Rabbit coming through town that were looking for some children to be in it. This was an all-children production, and I auditioned for it at her behest because she knew people, and she was like, get him in. And I did, and that was my first experience acting. And it was wonderful. I loved it. Oh my God, I can speak because I have words to say. And so years later, and because of my experience with this wonderful little woman who's long dead now, sad to say, but that British voice that I can fall in rather easily is because it's her. It is her voice. It's channeling her. And so when given the chance to play this wonderful, posh, received pronunciation character like Sebastian, it was my love letter to the woman that taught me how to speak. I went to Yorkshire, England, just like where I met Connor. We were talking about that earlier, where I met Connor, C.BA. And at that convention, everyone there was crazy about Sebastian, which weirded me out because I have all these British people going, do the voice. I'm like, it's your voice. Why do you care about an American doing your voice? Like, whatever, but they loved it, and they gave me so much love for Butler and Sebastian. Like, it's a great show. I love it. It does not surprise me that the show is as well received as it is, but I'm surprised that people seem to really love and relate to Sebastian. And you know, love that voice. I mean, it's deeply gratifying as an actor because I don't think about that until people come up and say, I love you. I'm like, you do a job. But I was with my partner Brandon, and you know, and he enjoyed watching all these fans, all these British people doing do the voice. He was like, it must be really surreal. I'm like, it really is. We're walking back to our hotel room, and he just kind of turns to me, and he was like, Mrs. Britt was the name of my speech notes. Can you believe it? Her name was actually Mrs. Britt. She is B-R-I-T-T. Mrs. Britt, Sonata Britt. And it's just so great. And sorry, I get choked up, but Brandon turned to me, and he just kind of, as we were going to the hotel room, he was like, I bet Mrs. Britt would be super proud to know you here. And I was like, shut up! So, like, it's a crazy thing. If you told me 8 years ago when I started playing that character that I would have an experience that profound based on this character, this demon who wants to eat your soul, I never would have thought it. But it just proved to show you never know where it's going to go, where it's going to end. Let me pick someone that hasn't asked a question. Who hasn't asked a question? You with the, oh, yeah, you just pointed yourself. Go for it. Say again, what?
How do you feel voice acting Tiffany and Pop Team Epic?
Weird and funny. I love random and weird, so that was right up my alley, and I had a good time. Thank you. Now you, the other one, they pointed at you in the green shirt. Oh, ghost stories. Jamie, you just want to come up here and join me? Sure.
I have a panel right after this, so
just stick around.
Does she get her own name tag?
I do.
So I don't have any other stories about working at the Haunted Movie Theater, but I have many other ghost stories, as does Jamie.
So with that in mind, stay tuned. Michael and I, closer to Halloween, will be starting a ghost story podcast.
Not just any ghost story podcast, there's going to be some special things.
Right.
I had a lot of ghostly experience as a child and growing up, because I don't know why. I mean, something about growing up in theater I think makes you susceptible to it. You just kind of accept, yep, that's a ghost. I never got really good at being skeptical because I could never be like, oh, it's swarm gas, it's all Venus. You know what? I was never good at that.
I think, though, that has to do, as actors, our entire job is energy. All we do is take and change and release energy back out, and so we can really sense energy in a room, you know, and we feed off of that energy. And so if you walk into a space where the energy is just off, we're very sensitive to that, and so I feel like that has a lot to do with why a lot of actors are really like ghost stories, woo, and have a lot of ghost stories because we're just a little more sensitive.
In a way, someone said this in a book on acting that I thought was really cool. They compared actors to, they saw acting, the profession, as kind of the sort of modern day equivalent of ancient shamanism, because it is our job to kind of evoke personalities not our own as though they exist somewhere else and we're kind of drawing them from the underworld and being their vessel. So no, that sounds very fancy and frou-frou, but it is what it feels like.
So
frequently.
We're shaman is what he's saying.
We're shaman. But I think that relationship to the idea of like invisible people, because like, you know, Sebastian's right here next to me right now in my head, and Lawrence is right here, and they're all here in some way. So it's not a far cry to be like, yeah, there's a dead guy just right over there. Like, it's not difficult for me to believe that already, so I kind of accept it, and when you accept it, weird things can happen. Again, I don't know what it means. I don't necessarily believe in things, but I believe in my experiences, and I know stuff happened.
And we've had quite a few.
Yes.
And even together.
Yeah. Which is why we're doing the podcast. We're like, we have too much stuff happening around us to not do this. So, we're trying to give a good ghost story to tell. We got 5 minutes? 5 minutes.
Or are you just raising your hand?
I was just raising your hand. Yeah, you got a question. She's like, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Who is your favorite character voice actor?
Oh, you weren't here for that, were you?
He's not really big on favorites.
It's hard because they're all
in
you know? It's like, what's your favorite body part?
Here's a question. Let me ask it this way. If you were getting called into the booth to reprise any role, what role would it be?
Ooh, that's even harder.
There can be only one. highly
it
understood.
used to be like it used to be Okabe, but then I thought about that. I was like, no, I don't want to do that again because that's really, really hard and it's really devastating. It's such a good show and rewarding, but it's exhausting. And now finding myself having to do it is really difficult, and it's changing my relationship to acting altogether because it's such a hectic job. But
I want you to do more Lawrence from Spectacle.
That was
That's
yeah,
fine.
Lawrence from Westwood.
Yes.
He's also, if I had to pick a favorite character that wasn't Okabe, it would be Lawrence because I love his dialogue.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you, writer.
whatever.
But I love his, I don't know, his take on life, his characters. He's such a good guy. His energy, yeah. He's one of the sweetest and smartest and just all around like interesting people I've ever had the chance to play. Yes, the glasses.
Was there ever a role that you just didn't like, or maybe you just didn't, care for?
No. And I touched on this yesterday a little bit, but I have a reason why. Like, there have been many shows I've been in that I'm not the audience for, just because, I may not be. I've been in Pokemon, for example. I'm no longer the target audience for that show because I'm not that age range. I can be nostalgic, but it's different. As many times I've played a character that I felt was like, this is nothing like me. But as an actor, I want to figure that out. I want to find this character in me. Somewhere inside of me is this guy. I feel very, very strongly that if I hate the character I'm playing, I'm a shit actor. Because my job is to find, Anthony Hopkins said once, if you play Hitler, you've got to learn to love Hitler, because that's the job. It doesn't mean that you as a person endorse him, but it means to play that character, you have to be true, and you have to find the resonance, you have to make it real, which means you have to be respectful. And there's nothing less disrespectful to a role than to lack the imagination to find something about it to make your time with that character worthwhile for you and the audience. So if I ever find myself disliking a character, it's my own fault, not the materials. You can do great things with substandard material if you're in it, if you're really swept up by it. And so I believe there's too many people, too many good actors that never get the chance to work because they're just not in the right place at the right time. And for me to accept a role that I didn't like or couldn't find my way into when someone more deserving could have done wonders with it would just be, that's just an asshole thing to do, and I don't believe in it. So I make a point to find something about every character I play to love. Even Ralph, the security guard that got shot after one line. You, in the glasses, yeah.
So obviously you play a lot of popular characters. Do you take inspiration from the original Japanese voice actors?
All the time, all the time. Well, it's a little bit of both. I feel, I don't try to imitate them because that's pointless. You're never going to be as good you're never going to be as good at someone else's voice as they are at their own voice. So I try to capture, I let myself be inspired by their performance. Okay. Do you have a question? But it's being inspired by someone and going, cool, I react to what they've done and then I want to kind of see where that takes me. So I use their performance as a starting point and then try to take something else. It's very similar to breathing life into a part on stage. If you're playing, very rarely as a stage actor do you have the chance to originate a role. You're often playing a part that has been played by many, many hundreds of other actors, and so you look at it as being like, well, I'm not trying to best anyone or trying to be the greatest Falstaff or the greatest Hamlet or the greatest Willy Loman. I'm just going to be.
You don't want to reinvent it either.
No, you just want to do what's there and add your own take to the character, this whole continuum, this family of people that have all touched the role in some way, and that's the pleasure of it, is being to say, cool, I share this role with them. It's wonderful to meet the Japanese seiyuu with whom you share a role because you can talk about the character and realize you both come at it from very different angles, but still came at the same kind of essential truths on your own. So yeah, I'm going to do lightning round now because I talk way too much. So
if you have a question, raise your hand right now. You're not allowed to raise your hand after this.
Okay.
Okay.
Rainbow.
Are you registered to vote, and do you feel any responsibility with your platform to touch on the world outside of anime?
Yes, and yes.
Same.
Samesies. More so because I feel there is a deep responsibility there. Blue hair.
Since you brought up Japanese voice actors, do you have any favorite Japanese voice actors?
No. I love all the ones I've met have been super nice. But I mean, the guy that plays Okabe is really awesome. And so is Pasquiano. I've never met him, but I really want to. Yeah, sure. You. Yes.
There's one from Black Butler, Book of Atlantis, when they give flashback to when
when Ciel meets Sebastian, what's your favorite line out of that?
I don't have a favorite line. My favorite line, my whole favorite thing about Book of Atlantic is Lizzie's story, because she's a badass, and that's the whole, that justifies the whole franchise, is what we learn about her character as far as I'm concerned, because we need a woman like that. Yes, Orange hair again.
Have you ever like watched or rewatched something that you voiced in, heard your voice, and been like, wow, that's weird, or like felt really uncomfortable?
Oh, yeah, all the time. All the time. All the time.
Did you ever go like to a drive-through like that? Use one of the character voices?
Drive-through? I used to a lot more than I do now. But that's because everyone that works in a drive-through anywhere near Funimation knows all of us because we do it. And so they go, hey, Tatum. Damn it. Yes, my hero.
What was your favorite arc or episode for Black Color?
So far, I love Book of Circus. Book of Circus is like the most, like, just solid one. So Book of Atlantic is a really close second, because he gets to kill zombies on the Titanic. Book of Murder is
I
really
like
good.
that one.
Book of Murder, you're awesome in it.
Because I'm in it.
True fact, for those of you that don't know, so my partner, Brandon McInnes, who's an up-and-coming voice actor himself and who speaks Japanese fluently, that's how we met. He was interpreting at a con. He plays all of the cats in the Book of Atlantic and Book of Circus and all the cats. Because the show's director, who knows both of us pretty well, thought it'd be really, really funny if, wouldn't it be great if the one thing Sebastian actually cares about is played by the one thing Tatum actually cares about. So like the scene with like all when Sebastian is hoarding all the cats in the wardrobe, that's all Brandon. I'm like,
but it's not true that he's the only person you care about. You are an amazing friend.
But you were already in the show. Okay, I have time for one more quick question, and then I'll wrap it up. And then yes, you.
What's your favorite 8-page France line?
What?
What's your favorite?
I hate favorites question. I don't have one. I love the laugh. His laugh.
The laugh, do the laugh, that's my favorite.
Okay, tell a knock-knock joke and I'll do the laugh.
Tell what?
Tell a knock-knock joke. Or any joke, it doesn't matter.
You put me on the spot, I can't do it.
So who's got a knock-knock joke?
Not.
Who's there?
Mike.
Mike who?
Mike Jones.
I don't get it. I'm sure someone else has a really funny joke. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for coming.